can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. In plant nutrition, basically, it has to do with basically photosynthesis, right? Everything
Yes.
has to food. Nutrition has to do with food or feeding. All right. And of course, we know that feeding is one of the characteristics of
The living
living
thing.
things, right? Living things
Yes.
need to obtain food. When they obtain food, they use it to obtain energy for energy. Okay. They use it for growth, right? And
Yes.
every other development process. Plants are special and very important to the ecosystem because they can make their food themselves, right? They
Yes.
manufacture their food, their sugars, basically they manufacture glucose, isn't it?
Yes.
And that process we call photosynthesis, all right? And so we'll just quickly run through the process of photosynthesis since it's a lesson that you've done before. We'll run through it and I'll just prop up some questions that we can play around
Okay.
to check how well you understand and see what we need to reinforce in terms of the learning. So we'll go through the process of photosynthesis. We'll describe the leaf, okay, as an
Okay.
organ for photosynthesis. We'll also talk about some basic tests, evidences showing that photosynthesis occur in plants.
It's
Then
taking
there's this
place.
aspect
Okay.
of limiting factors, right? There's this aspect of
Yeah.
limiting factors that can affect the rate at which photosynthesis does
Mm.
occur in plants. Okay, let's see how much we can do. Um, Let me skip this video since it's not something you are not new to. I would have played that. Let me skip that. Now let's go through. When we say photosynthesis, what comes to mind? If you ask to
It's
define photosynthesis now and it's a 2 mark question, what
mm,
definition would you supply? Yeah.
it is where plants manufacture carbohydrates from
Mm-hmm.
raw materials using energy from light
Thank
sources.
you. Thank you very much. So light there is a source of energy. So when we talk
Yeah.
about the raw materials, what are the raw materials we are referring to?
Minerals from the the source of light or the soil.
Okay. Now, this is it. That's the equation for photosynthesis, right? We have the word
Yes.
equation and we have the chemical equation, right? Now,
Yes. Yes.
so we have the word equation, we have the chemical equation.
Yes.
Okay. Now, talking about the word equation, there are two raw materials of essence. The first is carbon dioxide, and the other is what? Water.
Oxygen.
Okay.
Oh.
So
Okay.
those are the two raw materials in photosynthesis. Light
Okay.
is a source of energy, it's an energy source, it's not a raw
Mm.
material. All right. Chlorophyll is what the plant has, okay, in its leaf that traps the light energy.
Yes.
And there are two products. Of course, we have glucose. We also have oxygen as the two products of photosynthesis. So what are the things to
Oxygen.
take note here? So if you're asked to mention the raw materials, these two guys here
Carbon dioxide and water.
are the raw materials.
Okay.
The two products, of course, we have glucose and oxygen. All right. So take
Okay.
note of that. You might also be required to be able to write, or you definitely will be required to be able to write a balanced equation for this process. And in balancing the equation,
Mm.
of course, you have to write the symbols, the chemical symbols for all of this. Okay, okay.
Yes.
So can you do this quickly? Can you write this equation comfortably?
The chemical equation for
Yes,
photosynthesis.
please. Yeah,
Yes, I can. We have actually done it in class
you've
too
done
in
this.
Chem
Okay.
Tech. Yes.
All right. All right. So, in as far as we will look at the raw materials where they are gotten from, okay. The product, what happens to the products after photosynthesis has happened. Now, just like I told you, for plants to survive, they need food. They make their food themselves, so they are called the autotrophs.
Oh, okay.
Okay, they are called autotrophs. They are also known as producers
Mm.
because they make the food themselves. Making this food, they need carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, they need water from the soil, and of course, the whole process happens in the chlorophyll of the leaf. So, carbon dioxide enters the plant. How does the carbon dioxide get into the plant? It enters the plant through the opening on the leaf for gas exchange. What are those openings called?
Stomata.
Stomata. What's the singular word for stomata? If
Uh,
it's just one hole, what's that called?
I forgot. An opening.
Stoma.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
One hole, one opening, stoma, plural, stomata. Okay? So the carbon dioxide, of course, enters from the air, from the atmosphere, through a simple process, called what? Called what?
Diffusion. Diffusion.
Diffusion. So the gas exchange in the stomata is by diffusion. All right, take note of that. For water, water, of course, is gotten from the soil and they move down concentration gradient. So water enters the root through special cells in the root, known as the root hair cells. The water
Mm.
absorption by the root hair cells, of course, it's not by diffusion because it's water. The process is by
Um, Osmosis.
osmosis. But ion absorption of ions, okay, mineral ions is not by osmosis.
Active
Essentially, ion
transport.
absorption is by active transport. Thank you. So all of these processes, the carbon dioxide through the stomata gets to the mesophyll cells in the leaves. The water from the root goes through the xylem until it gets to the leaves. And inside the leaves, you have the protein pigment called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the
Mm.
protein pigment inside a bag. What's the bag carrying the chlorophyll? What's the bag called?
Um, Chloroplast. Chloroplast.
Chloroplast. So the chloroplast is the bag, okay, that contains chlorophyll, of course, in the
Okay.
leaf. The chlorophyll traps the light energy, absorbs the light energy, uses the energy to split water and fix carbon dioxide to make the food. The first stable product of photosynthesis here is glucose. And of course, once this glucose is made, oxygen gas is produced as a waste gas, as a byproduct in the process of the reaction happening. All right. And that's the story of photosynthesis. So, the same way carbon dioxide is entering the leaf during photosynthesis, oxygen is going out of the stomata during photosynthesis as a waste gas. So, the only time carbon dioxide is entering the leaf is during photosynthesis. Now, let's get it right that respiration is a process that happens at all times.
Okay.
It's a process that happens at all times in plants and in animals. Photosynthesis will only happen when light is available, but respiration occurs at all times in plant cells. It's only in the leaves that you have carbon dioxide coming in for photosynthesis, but in other cells in the plant, oxygen is constantly being used to respire and to keep the plant cells alive. Do you get that now? That's one difference between respiration and photosynthesis process in plants. Any question?
No, no.
Okay. Still go more. So that is the chloroplast. And there are some mesophyll cells on the leaf. Can you mention both mesophyll cells on the leaf where you have chloroplast and where photosynthesis take place? What are the two mesophyll cells on the leaf?
Mm,
Have you heard of the palisade mesophyll?
yes, I have.
So the
Um,
palisade mesophyll cells. What's the other one?
the process.
And spongy mesophyll cell. Have you heard of that too?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so in the leaf, on the chloroplast of the leaf, there are two cells, two tissues there in the mesophyll layer of the leaf. Those mesophyll cells are the palisade mesophyll cells and the spongy mesophyll cells. They
Mm,
contain chlorophyll, and that is where most of the photosynthesis happen in plant. In fact, the palisade mesophyll carries out most photosynthesis in plants, followed by the spongy mesophyll. Later, we'll talk more about palisade mesophyll and spongy mesophyll. So that's just the brief story on how photosynthesis actually occur in plants. Where the raw materials come from, where does the photosynthesis happen? It happens inside the chlorophyll of the leaf. The chlorophyll
mm,
is found on the leaf in the palisade mesophyll cells, most especially in the spongy cells and a few other parts of the leaf. That's why the leaf is regarded as the organ for photosynthesis.
process.
So the leaf is regarded as the organ for photosynthesis. It's called an organ because it's made up of a collection of different what?
Different cells,
Can you see what I've just written on the screen?
different tissues. Okay.
Tissues. So we have cells that are grouped together to perform a function becoming what? Tissues, right? A
Yes.
collection of two or more tissues that aggregate to perform a function becomes what? An organ, right? And a collection of organs that perform the same function become an
Organism. Mm,
organ system. Of
mm,
course, you have the organism. So the leaf is an organ because it's made up of a collection of different tissues. So that starts with the story of photosynthesis. Now let's quickly look at what the leaf looks like. How is the leaf adapted for photosynthesis in plant? Have you seen this structure before?
yes, I have.
What parts can you label or identify?
Um, the stomata and
Okay. Okay, let's do a small classwork. I'll put some numbers and you direct me to the what structures take the numbers. That's one,
okay.
two. I'm sure you can see the numbers.
Oh
Three,
yes.
four, five, six, and seven. All right, so I have numbers one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Kindly point me to the structures that take these numbers.
Um, one is the stomata, and
Okay, okay,
where is two? Okay, one is the stomata. Actually,
okay.
no. One is the lower epidermis. Then two is the
You are
stomata.
correct. One is the stomata. One is the
Oh,
stomata. One is the stomata. So this is two.
okay. Three is the spongy. Is the
Mesophil.
um, yeah. And 4 is the palisade layer. Um,
Yes.
A lot, and you're like, okay, do you have a private tuition? Don't you have? Do you have? And yes, Ajiro Tech do have a private tuition. So by my right, you can see that we have for the EdExcel and Cambridge IGCSE, and yes, we do have for all subjects. Okay, all subjects. Okay, the popular ones that's always been in demand is mathematics, English language as a second language. Okay, we have physics, we have biology, we have chemistry, and we have um, you know the flagship, which is ICT, just here and there. We also have business studies. So if you're interested for a private tuition, um, I think all you have to do is send an email to the sales team at ajirotech@gmail.com, and they would reply to you, talk about your time zone, talk about, and the fee is really quite affordable. Really, it's really quite affordable. It's when you look at it across um, other tutoring service, I think this is the one that's quite affordable, and you get the very best of service. We also have for the E levels as well, um, and also for the EdExcel. So we have for the Cambridge E levels and EdExcel E levels. Okay, and we have also across the subject mathematics, which is usually the hot cake when it comes to E level, mathematics and chemistry, and then biology. These are usually one of the ones we have in demand always, all the time. Even physics, for E level. So all you have to do, if you're watching this right now and you are interested for a private tuition, then you can do yourself a solid, okay, and send an email to the sales team at ajiro@gmail.com, and they'll reply to you. And the good news about this is what I've discussed with the sales team is we've tried as much as possible to see how we can subsidize the amount according to countries, so it doesn't really look very, very heavy. Okay, so this is really important. Yes, we do charge in pounds, but again, we try to be as much as possible considerate to your countries, and we don't just skyrocket the price. No, because at the end of the day, we know how it feels, and we really want you to actually get the best of service, and again, be able to afford it from the comfort of your home. So again, Ajiro Tech private tuition is currently ongoing. You can enroll yourself for the IGCSE, and then for the E levels. Again, for the IGCSEs, these are the subjects, and for the E levels, these are also the subjects. So again, what are you waiting for? Just send an email to the system. If you're an IGCSE student preparing for IGCSE, if you're watching this in 2024, 5, watch this in 2026, watch this in 2027, we're currently ongoing, and this is actually a good time for you to actually explore, and then get it tailored to your own needs. So trust me, you don't want to miss out.
5 is the vein, and 6 is the upper epidermis,
Okay.
and and 7 is the cuticle. Actually, no, 5 is the guard cell, and then 7 is the cuticle.
Yes, you are correct that
Then
7 is the cuticle. Okay. You are correct. 7 is the cuticle. 6 is the epidermis. All right. It's
uh,
at the upper part and also at the lower part. Okay. So this is 6. All right. 4 is the
so
palisade
then,
mesophyll. Yes, you are correct. 3 is the spongy mesophyll. But where you have issues is 5. 5 are the veins, okay, the transport vessels. The veins here include the xylem and And what? Have you heard of these two terms before? Xylem and phloem?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So they are the transport vessels in plants. They are the structures that move things around, just like we have arteries, veins, and capillaries in humans. They don't have arteries, they don't have veins, they don't have capillaries. What they have are xylem and phloem. All right. So five here is pointing to the xylem and phloem. They are generally called veins. Okay. Two here, that structure called two, okay, which you thought was a stomata, is actually the guard. It's actually the guard what
Oh, oh,
cells.
guard cell. Okay.
Yes. And what do the guard cells do? They control the closing and the opening
Oh,
of the stomata. They cause the stomata to either open or close. There are
close.
usually two guard cells around one hole. So when they absorb water, they swell and open up the stomach, they open up the hole. And when they become flaccid, they'll close up and close up the hole, which is the stomata. So anytime you find guard cells, there's definitely the stoma there or stomata. So two guard
Mm,
cells control one stoma. All right. And that's what
okay.
it looks like. So that's just a rundown of the inside of a leaf or the different parts of a leaf. So this is why we call the leaf an organ, okay? That's why we
Mm,
call it an organ because it's made up of several cells and tissues. A collection of each of these epidermal cells, all these cells together, form a tissue. So we have
mm,
epidermis tissue, all right? We have palisade tissue. When you aggregate all the palisade cells together, that becomes palisade tissue.
okay.
Okay. When you aggregate all the spongy mesophyll cells together, each and every one of them, all of them together, they make up the tissue. All right.
Okay.
And the xylem vessels, the xylem and the phloem vessels, when you bring everything together, they can become a tissue. They can even become an organ, depending on the
Okay.
structures you are looking at. All right. So when you have a
Okay.
collection of cells together performing a function, they become a tissue. And different tissues together make an organ. So the leaf is regarded as an organ for photosynthesis
That's it.
in
Okay.
plants. Just as the flower is regarded as the organ for sexual reproduction in
Mm,
plants. Any question?
no.
Okay. So with this, yes, why do we call this spongy mesophyll spongy? Yeah.
Um, because of its shape,
What about the shape?
it's round,
Okay. What
or
else can you see? A sponge. When you talk about a sponge, what
or
characterizes a
because it
sponge?
absorbs how do I
You
talk?
can see that there are holes and spaces in between the cells, right?
Yes.
The cells are not tightly packed. Although this diagram is an animated diagram, though we'll get to a real diagram soon. You can see there are a lot of holes in between the spongy cells. Those holes are air spaces. It's the reason or are the
Oh.
reasons they are called the spongy mesophyll layer because there are air spaces in between them. They allow the through. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's that. I think those are the major things. The cuticle. Why do we have the cuticle? The cuticle is waxy. All right. It's waxy and also
Okay.
waterproof. It's waxy. It's waterproof. It reduces water loss. Okay, by evaporation and transpiration. Okay, that's why they have the thick cuticle usually at the top than at the bottom of the leaf. All right, the epidermis cells, these epidermal cells are actually protective layer of cells.
Okay.
Okay, the epidermal cells are for protection, just like the skin on our body, our skin. They protect the internal organs, they protect the mesophyll cells. They protect the palisade cells, the mesophyll cells. Aside the fact that they are for protection, they are also transparent. What does that
Okay.
mean?
They're see-through,
What?
basically.
Yes.
Yes.
What essence does that hold for the plant? They allow light to what?
Or pass through. Easily.
They'll allow light to pass through, so the light can reach the mesophyll cells. So the light can be used in the chloroplast for photosynthesis.
Just
Okay. The palisade cells have the most amount or number of chloroplasts or chlorophyll. What does that tell you?
uh, that they're very green.
One. And what does that mean? What happens in the chlorophyll essentially? That is where
Oh,
photosynthesis
yes,
what
it takes place.
occurs. So the more chloroplast or chlorophyll there are, the higher the rate of photosynthesis that occur there. So as far as the leaf is concerned, the palisade cells are the cells that carry out most of the photosynthesis
Okay.
in
Okay.
plants. So the spongy cells still have chlorophyll though, but not as much as the palisade cells. They have S species also. So I think I've explained every part of the leaf. I've told you that the xylem and the phloem are for transport. Do you know what the xylem transports in plants?
Um, I think I know, but I forgot. We did it in my school. We did it in class.
Ah, we don't learn to forget, though, young lady.
I know.
We learn to remember. Biology, everything can be asked at different times in different ways, so you don't learn to forget. So the xylem actually transports water
Mm,
and ions, okay?
okay.
Water and ions from the root all the way up the plant,
Okay.
okay? The xylem transports the water and ions. So once the root cells absorb the water and the ions, the xylem transports them from the root towards the leaves. The phloem transports the food that is made, the nutrients. So the
Okay.
phloem transports the nutrients, essentially sucrose and amino
Acids.
acids. So please take note of these two guys, xylem and phloem. Okay. So although sometimes we also say that the xylem transports hormones too. Sorry, the phloem
Okay.
transports hormones too. All right. So anything food, phloem. The only thing xylem transport is basically water and ions, mineral ions. All right. So that's
Okay.
that with the structures of a leaf. Any question?
No.
Okay, let's do this class activity. Okay, that's just a a guard cell. So this is guard cell A, guard cell B, and the hole is the stoma. Okay, one hole is the stoma. So the two cells surround the stoma. When they gain water by osmosis, they swell and cause the stoma to open. When they lose water by osmosis as well, they will close up. That's why the stomata can open or
Okay.
close. All right. So that's how they regulate the opening or closing of the stomata. Sometimes they can ask you to explain the importance of the gas cells closing, especially for plants growing in very hot environments. What benefit will that cause the plant or will that afford the plant in very hot environment like the desert area? Plants growing there will usually close their stomata when it's very hot. Okay,
Mm,
when it's very hot, when it's quite sunny, because of the rate at which they will lose water, they need to close their stomata so they don't lose most of their water
okay.
by
Ration.
transpiration or evaporation. So they will
Mm,
close their stomata until the early hours of the evening when the heat has reduced. The stomata opens, then they can carry out some photosynthesis at that time. So that is their behavioral adaptation to surviving in a very arid area, very dry areas. That's that with that. So let's do some class activity. What is the class work? Okay. So looking at this question, what will be the answer to question 11?
Um, starch. Starch.
I mentioned that earlier. Think again.
Glucose.
Pardon?
Glucose.
Glucose. Because when you write the equation for photosynthesis, what do we say is involved in the equation for photosynthesis? We say carbon dioxide, right?
Yes.
Plus water. Is that not?
Yes.
Okay. In the presence of light energy
Um,
and
um,
chlorophyll, right?
yes.
We give you
Then
what type
the
is your produce?
glucose and
Glucose.
oxygen.
C6H12O6 plus what? Oxygen.
Oxygen. H2O.
So we balance the equation 666. In balancing the equation, just remember the 666 formula. Okay.
Okay.
You add 6 to all the element, all the compound except glucose.
Okay.
You don't add 6 to glucose. Since you can remember the formula for carbon dioxide, for water, and for glucose, you don't need to add 6 to glucose. You just add 6 to all the other compounds, and that's your formula. So the first stable product for photosynthesis is glucose. That's what is made first in the leaf. Then they will convert the glucose to sucrose for transport from the leaves to different parts, and then they will store it as starch. So these are the three essential carbohydrates made and used in plants. They produce glucose in the leaf by photosynthesis. They will transport the glucose when they convert it to sucrose in the phloem, and they store it as starch, okay, in their roots, in their flowers, in their seeds, in their fruits, all right, depending on the plant, in their tubers. When you eat potatoes, when you eat yam or anything starchy, rice seeds, those are starch storage forms of carbohydrate. So question number 11 as shown here, the correct answer is glucose. Now, all right, I think I've mentioned something about 13. Let's go to 13. Let's
A lot, and you're like, okay, do you have a private tuition? Don't you have? Do you have? And yes, Ajiro Tech do have a private tuition. So by my right, you can see that we have for the EdExcel and Cambridge IGCSE, and yes, we do have for all subjects. Okay, all subjects. Okay, the popular ones that's always been in demand is mathematics, English language as a second language. Okay, we have physics, we have biology, we have chemistry, and we have um, you know the flagship, which is ICT, just here and there. We also have business studies. So if you're interested for a private tuition, I think all you have to do is send an email to the sales team at ajirotech@gmail.com, and they would reply to you, talk about your time zone, talk about, and the fee is really quite affordable. Really, it's really quite affordable. It's when you look at it across other tutoring service, I think this is the one that's quite affordable, and you get the very best of service. We also have for the E levels as well, and also for the EdExcel. So we have for the Cambridge E levels and EdExcel E levels. Okay, and we have also across the subject mathematics, which is usually the hot cake when it comes to E level, mathematics and chemistry, and then biology. These are usually one of the ones we have in demand always, all the time. Even physics, for E level. So all you have to do, if you're watching this right now and you are interested for a private tuition, then you can do yourself a solid, okay, and send an email to the sales team at agile@gmail.com and they'll reply to you. And the good news about this is what I've discussed with the sales team is we've tried as much as possible to see how we can subsidize the amount according to countries so it doesn't really look very, very heavy. Okay, so this is really important. Yes, we do charge in pounds, but again, we try to be as much as possible considerate to your countries, and we don't just skyrocket the price. No, because at the end of the day, we know how it feels, and we really want you to actually get the best of service, and again, be able to afford it from the comfort of your home. So again, Ajiro Tech private tuition is currently ongoing. You can enroll yourself for the IGCSE and then for the E levels. Again, for the IGCSEs, these are the subjects, and for the E levels, these are also the subjects. So, again, what are you waiting for? Just send an email to the system. If you're an IGCSE student preparing for IGCSE, if you're watching this in 2025, watching this in 2026, watching this in 2027, we're currently ongoing, and this is actually a good time for you to actually explore and then get it tailored to your own needs. So trust me, you don't want to miss out.
13. Let's go to 13. I'll come back to 12 when we have explained transpiration, like you said, so you get a better gist of it. Let me not trouble you with that for now.
13.
Let's try.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Sucrose and amino acid.
Sucrose and amino acid. All right. That we learned just a moment ago. Which product of photosynthesis moves out of a green leaf through its stomata? Yeah.
Carbon dioxide. No, oxygen.
Oxygen moving out during
Yes.
photosynthesis. So oxygen is the
That's
waste
it.
gas. If they said during respiration,
During
what would be the answer?
respiration,
Yes,
carbon dioxide.
carbon dioxide. This says what's carried by the xylem.
But uh, water and ions, mineral ions.
So, okay, very good. So, which two substances are needed for photosynthesis?
Um, Carbon dioxide and water.
Carbon dioxide and water. Which process does not release water?
Um, Photosynthesis.
Very good, because water is used, okay? I think that, okay. Let's see. I will talk about average number of chloroplasts. Yes, let's try this question. Yeah. So what option would you pick? They said the bar chart shows the average number of chloroplasts in each of three different types of leaf cells. Okay. Average number of chloroplasts in each cell. Uh-huh.
Um,
What do you think? What cell would be one, two, and three based on the numbers of leaves? You see that cell number two has the highest amount of chloroplast. So
yes.
from what you've explained, what do you think?
A.
A, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I would have asked you to clap for yourself. Can you clap for yourself over there?
So,
Aha. Very good. Nice one. I like your thinking. So, like I told you, I said the cells that have the highest number of chloroplast or chlorophyll are the palisade cells, then
mm,
followed by the what? Spongy
poison.
mesophyll cells. The gas cells have very few amount of chloroplast, meaning they can also carry out photosynthesis. So any part of the plant that has chlorophyll can carry out photosynthesis. Okay, I think All right, this is a palisade mesophyll cell. You must have done something on cell structure and function, comparing plant cells with animal cells. So let's refresh
Mm-hmm.
with this. That's the structure of a palisade cell, and this is the structure of a spongy cell. So in a spongy cell, you have something like this. Okay.
Okay.
Mhm. So yeah, let's see if we can label this. So give me the names of A, B, C, and D. Let's see.
D is the nucleus.
Very good. Could you spell
C is
nucleus for me?
nucleus.
Beautiful.
C is the vacuole.
Okay.
Vacuole.
I like the
And
way you pronounced it, so it's easier to spell that way. Now,
um B is B is the cell wall.
B
And
is the cell wall.
A is the chloroplast.
A is the chloroplast. Let me do something here. So this is A, and this is E. What is A and E on the opposite diagram? If this is a spongy mesophyll cell, what is A and what is E?
Um
Are you with me?
yes, yes, ma'am.
So if this is a spongy cell, it's a plant cell. Okay, it's a plant cell, spongy cell, spongy mesophyll cell. It's a plant cell. What is A and what is E?
A would be
Nucleus. Let me just.
A would be the
Okay,
the nucleus.
I want to just confirm. Which one is the nucleus now? D is the nucleus. D is the nucleus. D is the nucleus. So for this now, A, everywhere here, as I'm shading it, everywhere I'm shading, you can see my shade.
Mm.
Every part in that space, from the first membrane to the second membrane, everywhere there is the cell. Everywhere there is what?
The cell wall.
The cell wall. Then that inner membrane becomes the cell
Membrane.
membrane. Please take
Mm.
note. So everywhere on the outside, from this first line labeled B here, okay, to this inner line, everywhere on this in this space, that whole space, all that space, that line from the first line to that inner line is the cell wall. So the inner membrane now becomes the cell membrane.
Membrane.
C, of course, is the vacuole or
Mm.
vacuole, as you pronounce it. D is the nucleus. Okay, that space inside the cell membrane, the space within which all other organelles are suspended, are labeled E, becomes the
Oh, cytoplasm.
cytoplasm. Do you get that now?
Yes.
All right, so that's that with cell structure. I think that's enough on these questions. All right, let's end the questioning with question 21, and then we'll go on to our lesson on photosynthesis. We'll go on with the explanation of the other things. Yeah, go on.
Which light.
What form of energy is stored within the glucose molecules made during photosynthesis? I think you might want to review your answer.
Mm, chemical. Chemical.
Chemical, because it's a biochemical process. So the food we eat is now what? Chemical. So what
Mm.
plants do for us is that they convert light energy. They are able to convert light energy from the sun. They convert it into what? Chemical energy in glucose. All right. That is what photosynthesis is all about. That's why we call plants the producers. They are able to transform light energy into chemical energy as food. That energy is what they use to carry out their life processes. They use it for respiration, for growth, for other metabolic processes, and to stay alive. So take note of that. So the energy in the food we eat is chemical. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So let's hold it down here a bit. And all right, talking about testing for photosynthesis. Most times they ask questions on this in multiple choice questions in your paper 6. Later you get to know that I don't know if you know that there are 3 papers you write. There is paper
Mm.
2, there is paper 4, and there is paper 5 or 6. Most schools do paper 6, which is alternative to practical. And I think that's what most schools do. I don't know what you do in your school, but I want to believe it's paper 6 as well, isn't it? Are you aware? Do you know?
My teacher did make. He did tell us that we're not going to do one paper because it's like a practical work that we're supposed to do at home.
Mm, okay, okay, okay. So, don't worry, as you go, we'll get to find out. So, whatever paper it is you're doing, we'll work and get you ready with it. But I'm just making that known so that you be aware. What we want to actually look at is different ways in which we can show that photosynthesis actually happens in plants. But first, we should be able to tell how to test for the presence of starch in a leaf. We can tell that a plant is photosynthesizing or a plant has carried out photosynthesis when we see that there are starch deposits in the cytoplasm of the plant or in the chlorophyll of the plant. Okay? Anytime we find starch deposits in the cells of the plant, we can tell that, hey, this plant is actually photosynthesizing because the glucose produced usually is stored as what?
Um.
It's stored as what? As what? Starch in plants. So that's why when we eat rice or any other carbohydrate based food, that's the starch that has been stored from series of photosynthesis process that has taken place on the plant. Now, in testing a leaf for starch, if you look closely at this image, this picture, it has 4 stages. This is the first stage. Okay, that's the second stage, that's the third stage, and finally, this fourth stage. In testing a leaf for starch, presence of starch, show that okay, this starch is actually making its food, okay, glucose, and then converting it to starch to be stored for later use. We don't just apply this reagent. This reagent called iodine is what we use to test for starch in a leaf.
Oh.
Iodine apparently has a color. that is do you know, have you learned something like this sometime back?
We did a practical on this
Beautiful.
a
Okay.
few weeks ago.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So that means you can teach me or explain this to me or remind me or tell me something about this. How do we test a leaf for starch? The first thing is to boil the leaf, right?
Yes. To soften it
In
up.
water to
Yes.
break down the cell wall, to break down the cell wall. All right. And then you dip the leaf in ethanol, okay? In hot ethanol, whether you boil it over water. But we don't boil the ethanol directly over a naked flame. Why don't you boil the ethanol directly or heat ethanol directly?
It will cause a reaction.
It's flammable, right?
Yes, yes.
Ethanol is flammable. It it can catch fire. That's the word. So we don't boil ethanol in open flames. We only put the ethanol in boiling water. So the heat from the water can heat up the ethanol. And why do we put the leaf in ethanol? What is the importance of soaking the leaf in ethanol?
To decolorize the leaf. To strip
To
it of
remove
color.
the color, the green color of the leaf, to bleach
Yes.
off the chlorophyll in the leaf. Once you remove the chlorophyll, you need to rinse the leaf. That's what happens in stage number 3. You rinse the leaf to wash off the ethanol so that the ethanol does not react with the iodine while you test the leaf for starch. Iodine originally has a yellow brown color, right?
Yes. Yes.
And if starch is present in the leaf, what happens to the
It will
iodine when you drop
turn
it on the leaf?
it will turn they will make the leaf turn blue black.
Blue black. All right. That's how to show that starch is present in a leaf. All right. This test very important. Any day, anytime they can ask you to explain how it works, whether in your paper 4 or even in some multiple choice questions. They can give you some diagrams. We'll go back to such questions and you'll see how um what's it called? The questions could be asked. How about 3 minutes more? Do I still go on with one more explanation on the test, or we'll continue from here next time?
You can do one more explanation.
Okay. Now, since we know that plants make starch, okay, how do we show that they need light for photosynthesis? It's simple. Get a plant, okay, make sure that you cover a part of the plant with aluminum foil. Okay, while you're covering the part of the leaf with foil, is to ensure that light does not get to the part of the plant covered with the foil. But before you do that, you must have distort the plant. That's a term. What do you mean by distorting a plant? Before you can
Uh,
use any plant for this experiment, did you take note of that? Did you learn anything like that?
um I believe we in first term we did do this, but then we didn't do a practical of it in class.
Mhm. Okay. So in discharging a plant, all you just do is lock up the plant in a dark cupboard or in a dark setting for about 2 to 3 days. Why are you locking up this plant in a dark environment? So that light does not get to the plant. And then the leaves would have used up all the stored starch. They would have used up all the stored starch for respiration. So there is no starch left in the leaf. That's why you discharge it and lock it up for 2 to 3 days. By the time you get the plant out, the plant leaf is totally empty of starch or any form of carbohydrate. Then you can easily cover up one part of the leaf or a few leaves with a foil, expose it to light, and after some hours, you expect that the plant would have carried out photosynthesis. So if you plug this leaf that has been covered with foil and you test it later on for presence of starch following the process, you find out that that part that was covered with the foil will not turn blue black. it wouldn't turn blue black. It's going to remain brown yellow, showing that there are no starch or no starch is stored there, meaning that that part that's covered with the foil did not receive light, and so that part did not carry out photosynthesis.
That's
Do you get? So that's just a simple test to show that light is needed for photosynthesis. Any question?
no, I'm okay.
Yeah. So that's it. That would be how much we can take for now. And it's nice having you. I like your spirit. I like your activeness, your
Thank
responsiveness. Okay. And your reasoning strength. If we continue, I'm sure we are really going to do so well. I like my students having a star. Okay. And the minimum being A. But with what I can see, I think you can do an A star if we do the right thing and keep up the work. All right.
okay.
Yeah. So that will be it for now. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye
Thank
for
you.
Thank you.
now.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Mr. Kelechi. Thank you so much. Mirabel, hope you enjoyed the class. Mm.
Yes.
I saw the way you answered most of the questions. So that simply means that yeah, that simply means that biology is kind of like a subject that you find very interesting. And
Yes.
yes, so it's something we'll definitely do. You saw the pattern of the class today in terms of biology. We know, okay, we now know, okay, this is the class you are, this is the topic you're treating. So for every topical base, we'll give you some questions to ensure that those informations that has been passed is probably retained, and again some exercises